Looks like we're live. Good. If you're here, just let me know you can hear me. I think you can. All right. Okay, we got a training for you today, and just let me know actually if you're here. I always love knowing who are the women inside this community that are taking advantage of the trainings, but not only just taking care of, not taking part in the trainings, but actually taking imperfect action on the trainings. So let me know in the comments, just say here, and let me know that you are one, taking advantage of the free trainings, but two, maybe you're an imperfect action taker, and I'd love to know that too. And today's training was inspired by, a couple conversations with a couple of women. And it's called the Weight Loss Reality, your 1 hour workout. Basically, why it's not cutting it for weight loss. So let me know if you're live or if you're catching the replay. This one's been coming up a lot, like I said. So let's see if it resonates with you. You have, let's say 2 to 3 personal training appointments in a week. The rest of the week is kind of hit and miss with your workouts. So is that you? 2, you attend maybe, 2 to 3 group fitness classes per week. The rest of the time you may work out at home, or the other 3 to 4 days, or you may be inconsistent those days to work out on your own. It could be 3, you don't do personal training or group fitness classes, but you are committed to, 30 minutes to 1 hour, maybe, 3 times a week. Or 4, you don't work out, but you do walk daily. Maybe you do that for 45 minutes to an hour. So there's like I gave you just 4 different scenarios. Let me know which one kind of represents where you're at right now and in regards to your workout. So which one represents you? Now, before we kind of get into today's training, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, I'm approaching today's training with a lens of weight loss. I'm not approaching this training thinking about body recomposition, what you call toning, or if your primary goal is strength. Although if any of the 4 statements I just made above ring true for you, there are kind of more optimal ways to kind of approach those 2 goals. And number 2 is I'm in no way suggesting that there is no value in any kind of exercise, because there is actually a lot of value. I'm merely speaking to the women who focus more on their workouts as a primary source to kind of lose this weight, kind of like a one-trick pony. So sometimes when I talk to women about weight loss and they're like, well, I've tried everything. Usually what they're saying is like, well, I tried either putting all my eggs in the exercise basket or tried putting all my eggs in the nutrition basket, but very rarely have I had a basket where I'm managing those 2 at the same time. And so today we're speaking to the woman who is just putting her eggs in the exercise basket and looking at, why that's not adding up to results. And so we're just looking at it from a weight loss perspective. So let's dig into today's training and understand why any of these 4, the 4 scenarios I gave you at the top of the hour. I'd still love for you to chime in and let me know where you're at and which one resonates with you. So let's dig into why one of those 4 won't get you the results, the weight loss results that you want. Okay, so if you want the Coles notes, and don't want to stick around for the entire training today, I'm going to give them to you now, basically. So you may be exercising for an hour or 2 every day, but if you're kind of sedentary or inactive and are sitting for long periods of time for the rest of the day, then not only do you need to push yourself much more if you want to improve your fitness, this isn't enough to drive weight loss. Cole's notes. So health experts are of the belief that no matter how hard you train at the gym for an hour or 2, it's not going to improve your health and fitness levels if you are sedentary the rest of the day, and double that if you're overeating, unhealthy snacking, weekend drinking, meal inconsistency, poor sleep, and stress management. Think about it like a ladder. And so okay, if I'm making on that 1 hour to not only help me lose weight, but to also improve my health, sure, we're making a little bit of a dent, but we haven't necessarily made it to the next rung on the ladder. But then once we then think about, okay, well, the rest of the day I'm sedentary, then that's one level of hard. So we're going reverse on the ladder. And then if I all of a sudden have unhealthy eating habits, overeating, snacking, weekend drinking, for example, inconsistent with my meal, poor sleeping, stress, all of a sudden I'm down the ladder even further and further and further. So the 1 hour or what have you is a great start, or even the 30 minutes. So it's important to include exercise in your weight loss plan. Not only that, but resistance training if you want to live long and healthy too. We know that muscle is the organ of longevity, and that's all about building muscle, and it's the key to your longevity and better health. So that's the Coles notes. If you want to know why, then you want to kind of stick around for the rest of today's training. Okay, so let's understand this at a deeper level. So let's look at like a calorie burn or a calorie deficit, all right? So a calorie burn would be like if you had like a fitness tracker and it was talking about how many calories you burned, or sometimes if like you're on a treadmill or elliptical or whatever, it'll tell you how many calories you burned. And then a calorie deficit would be like it's what allows for weight loss basically, is you need a calorie deficit. And so basically you can do that by how much you're eating, so reducing what you're eating, or you can do that by working out. Generally, we don't have a lot more time to work out more, to move more, and so it's an easier variable to mess around with your nutrition there. So that's kind of the difference between those two. So if we take walking, for example, a 150-pound person who walks briskly for like 30 minutes will burn an average of around 140 calories. That's equal to maybe like 1 can of soda, maybe not exactly a great return on your effort. It would be easier perhaps to kind of skip the soda. So that's kind of what I mean. Now, it's not to say that you don't get a whack load of other benefits from walking. I certainly walk a lot, or as often as I can. So we're just taking this from a weight loss perspective. But if you look at it, you don't really burn a lot of calories through that exercise. Does it add up over time? Yes. Could it be a benefit to your weight loss? Yes, absolutely. Exercise in your weight loss plan is important. But when you think about like a woman who says like, I'm working out, I'm doing all of this or whatever, and I'm not losing weight, well, think about that. And sometimes it's better to have skills in terms of, well, if you think about it, 140 calories is equated to 1 can of soda. Sometimes it's easier to figure out how to skip the soda, the 1 can of soda, than it is for a walk. And again, just a weight loss lens. I don't want people to be like, you're talking about not walking or not moving your body. That's not what I'm saying. So to put it more simply, so with cardio, you can slog away for like 30 minutes at a lower intensity and burn like say 200 calories, or you can eat 200 calories fewer that day, right? It's the same thing. Now, remember what I said at the beginning, I'm taking the perspective of weight loss and kind of speaking to the woman who might be listening, who only counts on exercise to be the primary driver for their weight loss, okay? So now let's take a look at a study. So when moderate exercise is added to a diet, the results are equally unimpressive. When they looked at data from 6 trials, researchers found that a combination of diet and exercise generated no greater weight loss than a diet alone after 6 months. At 12 months, the diet and exercise combo showed an advantage, but it was slight, about 4 pounds on average. Now, this is where women usually are disappointed in their lackluster results and give up. They feel like they are putting in a lot of work for not a lot of return, and then feel like they are doing everything and it doesn't seem to be working. So it isn't to say that we don't want exercise and nutrition together, which we're going to get to once we get to the actionable steps in today's training. You do want those two things together. But when we put so much more emphasis on the working out, especially if like when you get emotionally, tapped out, mentally exhausted, or physically drained, or like you have a busy season, you have the holiday, and exercise keeps putting to the back burner, then it's not as advantageous to put all your eggs in that basket. Sure, we want some eggs in that basket for sure, but it's more advantageous to then look at this nutrition thing over here. So I want to make a case for nutrition then. So simply put, nutrition is the key to fat loss. You may burn 10 to 15 calories per minute with intense cardio, but you eat hundreds of calories per minute when eating. I think about a client that I just took on, and right now I'm looking at her food journal, and we're just getting started to see like what's going on. And she takes a little small container, it's about that big, of nuts to work. Well, You can probably guess there's probably about 400 calories in that little tiny Tupperware container of nuts. And then she's wondering why it's not adding up. Now, as I'm looking at her food journal, I'm seeing a lot of other decisions that she's making that, even though they might be healthy, that are contributing to the lackluster results that she's seeing. But if you think about it, 10 to 15 calories per minute with intense cardio, that does add up. And it, of course, there's cardiovascular benefits. But when you think about better bang for your buck in terms of weight loss, nutrition is it, because we can eat hundreds of calories per minute when we're eating. So nutrition is the primary driver for weight loss. So think about it this way, about 30% of your fat loss will come from your activity level, 70% from your nutrition. And some people will say 20-80, for example. So, but 100% will come from your long-term consistency, right? So therefore, consistency is at kind of the top of the priority pyramid, and then it goes nutrition. So your mindset. Now, that's what a lot of women report in a roundabout way, because we aren't always aware we are kind of doing this, right? Exercise sometimes becomes a punishment for overeating. Like I ate this much, so let me burn it off. I did this bad thing, so let me be extra good today. I will work out and burn X calories because I know later on I'm going to do this bad thing. So is that resonating with you? Just pop into the comments and let me know. Just like, yes, give me the head nod emoji. You're treating exercise as a form of self-punishment for being bad. The more you look at working out to get stronger and healthier versus a way of losing weight, you're more likely to kind of stick with it. But that does kind of require a mindset shift on your part too. The challenge with you entering into a relationship with exercise that's about punishment, for example, is that then it doesn't become a positive experience for you. It becomes you're always in this mode of punishing yourself, punishing yourself, punishing yourself. And think what toll that would take. If I had somebody always yelling at me and always scolding me and always punishing me, how would that feel? It would diminish my value. I would feel less confident. I would have a lot of self-doubt. I might have a lot of fear or insecurity. The same thing happens when we do it mentally, even though there's not somebody physically scolding you. And so we want to change that relationship with exercise. If we could change it to be about being healthier, being stronger, for example, on many different levels, that can change our outlook about it. And then does that change your consistency level too? So if you're looking at exercise as a form of punishment for something you did or are going to do, for example, or as a way of kind of going from bad girl to good girl, then it's our mindset that needs a little bit of nurturing there in order to make exercise stick, make exercise kind of work for you as well. I never want to leave these trainings without addressing mindset, and particularly the ones that are quite common when I am chatting with women too. So let's look at adaptation, right? Okay, so after coaching women for 14 plus years, most women stay in their comfort zone when they're working out. Sure, they may get out of breath, you might get sweaty, right? And even have some muscle soreness the next day. But are those what we're looking for? Are those like indicators, let's say, of a good workout, right? And so even just, coaching women, for example, I've had a woman who pushes herself when she's on the treadmill, but does this standard thing with weights. And now we've switched that around where she isn't adding more time. She's just pushing herself with weights more. And she just messaged me this morning and she's like, I never realized I could also get, this out of breath and have this cardio effect lifting weights, because she was staying within her comfort zone. It's quite often when I'm coaching women where I'm like, well, when was the last time you progressed in your workout? How are you progressing? And having that conversation, because they lift the same weights that they have available to them or the same weights that they've always been lifting. And so, and being out of breath and sweating a lot and muscle soreness is not necessarily, it's not a good indicator of a good workout there. So I want you to think about a mail carrier, right? If they walk 10,000 plus steps every single day, then why aren't mail carriers like skinny or fit, right? Because we see mail carriers of all different shapes and sizes out there. So why isn't it then? If they're moving every day, they're getting their 10,000 steps, why aren't they skinny or fit? Because our body is good at adapting, and then the benefits is limited. And again, this is coming from a weight loss perspective. So they probably did lose a lot of weight, especially if they came from a sedentary job to a more active job where they're getting 10,000 steps. They probably did see changes on the scale or did see changes in the way their clothes fit or and how their body feels. But over time, the body adjusts to that. Same thing if you look at like a construction worker, for example. they get a lot of movement, a lot of physical lifting for the most part. How come they come in all different shapes and sizes? Because the body is really good at adapting. It isn't to say that there isn't benefits to all that. It's to say from a weight loss perspective, well, it stops working the way it once worked, right? And we don't challenge our speed when we're running our distance. And the same thing goes for walking, right? We don't challenge our weights when doing resistance training to create new adaptations, or even if not weights, even just knowing how to change our tempo, our range of motion, our reps and our sets. Like we've discussed in training before, exercise does have many health benefits, but the type of exercise you perform in the gym will influence how many calories you burn outside of the gym, right? So running will burn calories, but sprinting or lifting weights will result in more muscle. And the more muscle you have on your body, no, we're not talking about the bulky muscles of a bodybuilder, the more calories your body burns just functioning, because it takes a lot for a body to maintain, preserve, or build kind of that muscle there. So I hope that right now what we've done is we've kind of went through some common kind of scenarios. I gave you the Coles no. We understand now calorie burn and calorie deficit. We took a look at a study. We made a case for nutrition. We looked at the punishing mindset, and now we're looking at adaptation. So is it exercise or diet, right? I think we kind of covered it, but let's go a step further. Let me ask you this. If I have two options available to you. When you're listening, I want you to reflect on two things: what you usually do and what works best for long-term sustainable results, and kind of that consistency, right? Which we've kind of determined is your number one priority. Okay, so I'm gonna read out these two options, and then basically if you're listening here live or on the replay, I want you to hit the comments and be like option one or option two, right? And we're thinking about it through the lens of what you usually do and what works best for long-term sustainable results in that consistency. Okay, option one is you work out 6 to 7 days a week. Each workout is a minimum of an hour. You eat under 1,200 calories per day. You cut out some foods completely. Most women, it's carbs or sugar. And you trade, if you choose option one, you lose the weight quickly, but then you gain it back. So that's option one. And I want you to think about what you've usually done and what's going to help you reach long-term sustainability. Option two, you work out 3 to 5 days per week. They're 35 minutes to 45 minutes. You have a small calorie deficit. There's no restrictions, so you're not cutting something out. Obviously, we'd be prioritizing protein, for example, and fiber, but the trade, if you choose option two, you choose weight slowly, but you keep it off forever. So which one did you choose? Did you choose one or did you choose two? Which option have you chosen in the past? Because I got to say, after 14 years of coaching, most women choose option number one. And then what happens is you get into this path of always chasing weight loss. We don't think about what I'm doing now. How does it feed into my long-term sustainability plan? We don't think about the long term because we just think about, this is what I'm comfortable doing. This is what I'm familiar doing. This is what I think I need to do. And so we do that, but we don't challenge, okay, well, if I don't want to be the person who's constantly chasing weight, I want to be the person who maintains the results or the habits that support my weight loss, then I got to choose something different. And that means more of option two, right? Which is a little bit more manageable. So what would work best for you to meet your number one goal for consistency? So that's what I want to hear from you in the comments is, did you choose option one? Did you choose option two? Do you see the difference between both? Is what I'm saying kind of making sense? And I want you to think about, if number one is consistency, which one is going to get you there? Not for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but for the long term. So the challenge most women have is they know how to do number one really well. They can execute it really well. They can lean into perfection when life is moving along, and it's what they believe it's needed for weight loss. When it comes to number two, women generally often lack the skills to know how to do that, how to get the most bang out of your buck out of 35 minutes to 45 minutes, or how to create that small calorie deficit, or how to eat with no restrictions without thinking about it or obsessing about it or late night snacking about it, and how to look at weight loss from the lens of keeping it off forever, right? So your body needs to be active both inside and outside the gym. Get up from your desk as often as you can. You can stretch, walk around, build in movement breaks into your day. So I've had clients, for example, who do sit a lot, and so we set a timer, and at that timer they have to, you know, stand and work at their standing desk, or they have to go for a walk or whatever, just to get in like a couple of micro breaks, especially when they're working longer hours or they're more busy in the evening and can't get their workouts in. That's how we're building it in. Some women who have like their own private office, for example, versus like in an open office, we do micro movements, micro workouts. So, you know, it's just like 5-minute workout breaks that they can kind of schedule throughout the day. And it's done wonders not only for their weight loss, but it's done wonders for them feeling like they're not doing anything. So that mindset piece, but it's done wonders for their hips as well and their back. So, but change starts by realizing like extreme behaviors in either or not is not the solution. That's where you will find yourself frustrated by your lack of results, even though it might feel like you're investing a lot of effort, right? So the bottom line is that exercise alone doesn't work, although it does help with enhancing like your aerobic and your anaerobic fitness, two key factors in a successful aging, preserving muscle loss, key factors in you being like independent as you age, or reducing disease risk, improving cognitive function, your mood, and enhancing the quality of your life. And you'll also sleep better too, and you'll strengthen your immune system, which is great for this time of year. You'll have less risk of injury, your energy level will go up, you know, reduction in depression and anxious like feelings, in particular if it's weight training. What you really need is exercise plus a sound nutritional program. So what now, right? So if this is hitting home and you're like, yes, I'm the kind of person who that does bank on exercise to be what kind of drives my weight loss, and I'm kind of seeing things a little bit differently now, then what? Well, one, I'd love for you to tag another woman on the comments. And the reason being is because it's so important for us to share what we know with other women versus, I want to say, hoarding it to ourselves. We need to lift other women up, because when we do that, we lift ourselves up and we grow our support network as well. And we also know that when we feel supported, we're more likely to stick with it. And so tag a woman who banks, you think, hey, this would be a really good training, whether they're in the group, you know, and tag them and just be like, let's talk about this. Let's share this. Let's not be those kinds of people, right? So, okay. So I want you to think about like a pyramid, right? So at the very top of the pyramid, of course, we need consistency. Consistency is not the same. It's not synonymous with perfection. That's where we often get it wrong. You can take imperfect, consistent action. So at the top, of course, consistency rules the roost. It's at the top of the pyramid. Then you got to think about, and again, I'm applying the weight loss lens, then you got to think about a calorie deficit. So just like I told you in option 2, it's a slight calorie deficit, because we don't want to be fighting against cravings. We don't want to be fighting against hunger, and we don't want to be fighting against a lack of energy. And so it's a slight calorie deficit. We don't want to sound any alarm in the body. Third is sleep, which is really underrated. We think it's like, oh, some women think it's them being lazy. It's a waste of time. I got stuff to do. If I sleep longer, sleep more. You know, we have all kinds of stories and beliefs about sleep, but there's a misconception that, let's say when you're lifting weights in the gym, we think that that's when you're growing your muscles, but you're actually not. You're growing your muscles when you're sleeping, and that's when the growth hormone is being released. Same thing with digestion. If you're the kind of woman who's bloated, gassy, and all that sort of thing, but you sleep crappy too, well, those two things are connected, because guess what? Rest and digestion go together as well. So sleep is really, really important to, one, focus and clarity, but also recovering your muscles. It's so important. So it's third in the pyramid. Fourth would be protein. Why protein? Because it helps preserve and build your muscles too. It helps repair your muscles, but it's going to keep you satiated. So that means that you're not going to have as many cravings. You're not going to feel as hungry. And then fifth is strength training. Why strength training? Well, because it helps us develop our muscles, and muscles we know are metabolically active, which means that our metabolism increases, which means it supports our weight loss, but also it's the organ of longevity. So if you're the kind of person who wants to retire with spunk, or wants to be able-bodied and functional when, you know, without aches and pains, strength training is where you're going to get that. And then the sixth step on the pyramid, the very tiny one at the very top, is cardio. Is cardio at the very top. And I gotta say, like, after 14 years of coaching women, that's not what the pyramid usually looks like, right? It's cardio usually is at the very top. Protein isn't considered. It's usually just eating healthy, for example. And so think about it. What you've done before and what you're doing now, does it follow the pyramid? Where might your pyramid be out of order, or where might your pyramid be off completely? Are you neglecting a certain area? I'd love for you to pop into the comments and just tell me, does your pyramid look like that now? Has it looked like that in the past? What areas in the pyramid are out of order for you? So again, it goes consistency, calorie deficit, sleep, protein, strength training, cardio. So what does that mean in practical terms, right? So if I was looking at food, then I would look at, if I didn't calorie track, for example, which I don't think is always a benefit for everybody, but if I didn't do any of that and I just wanted to increase my protein, I would just start tracking my protein, whether that is in an app, whether that is on paper or whatever, whether that is label reading, whatever your skill level and ability is at right now, is I would eat protein at every meal. So if I eat 4 times a day, I always make sure that there's a protein. I eat veg at every meal. So if I don't eat veggies at every meal, I make sure that I hit my servings at least, because some meals I'm doubling up. So I'd eat protein at every meal. I'd eat veg at every meal. I drink a minimum of 3 liters of water, and usually it's half your body weight in ounces. Now, coaching women after 14 years, we're not drinking half our body weight in ounces, and it's way too big of a jump for some women. The women that I'm coaching right now, 1 liter tends to be the standard. Well, that's too big of a jump to go to half your body weight in ounces. So you would start at being consistent with 1 liter, gradually build up to 1.5, gradually build up to 2, and increase your water. And it not only it helps with energy levels, like if you are a big coffee drinker, not only is it going to help with that, it's going to help with recovery, but it's going to help with your digestion too, which plays a massive role in weight loss. And then I would lift weights 3 to 5 times a week. And most people are like, well, how much time or whatever? You don't have to think about time. You just have to think about being able to push yourself, push yourself in when you're lifting weights in terms of tempo or rest or that sort of thing, or the weight that you're lifting as well. You can walk as much as possible. That's going to increase your NEAT, because remember, it's not about just your 1 hour and then not doing anything. It's about increasing your overall movement. Sleep the 7 to 9 hours. And I hate always putting an hour on that, because I know that there will be women who will be like, well, that one's a write-off because there's no way I can do that, right? And there's a couple of things with that. Is one, sometimes we're not prioritizing sleep. It's like our to-do list. Like I have one client where she's working and then home responsibilities or whatever until midnight. And so we're working on that because she has a belief about sleep and it competes with her to-do list. So I don't necessarily want you to write it off. If you can't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, I don't want you to write it off as a priority. I want you to think about, well, what kind of sleep ritual can I create that helps me get restful sleep, so that when I wake up in the morning, I feel more energized or refreshed or revived from that sleep. Be consistent, obviously. And again, consistency is not perfection. And well, stop searching for shortcuts, because shortcuts don't feed into your long-term plan. And so, yeah, they can result in weight loss, but then what? Then what? When vacations happens, when holiday comes up, when you're emotionally drained, when you're mentally tired, when your body's injured, for example, when you don't want to eat that way again, when the cravings escalate, like all these things, you don't have a plan on what to do after that. So that's how you would put it in practical terms, how you would take that pyramid and then look at applying it into your life. So what I would love for you to do is go through the pyramid for yourself and then write the corresponding actions with each one so that you're in alignment with the pyramid. All right. And that's what I have for you in today's coaching. If you have any questions, you can drop them into the comments below. But I hope what I've done is, one, I haven't told you to stop working out. That's not what I've said. I've actually encouraged you to move more. But if you're the woman who says, well, I work out 1 hour a day, or I have personal training, 1 hour, 3 times a week, or I do these classes 3 times a week or whatever, or it's like I move every day for 30 minutes. I hope I've given you enough know-how now to see like why that might not be translating into the results you want. It feels like a lot of effort, but you're not getting the best bang for your buck. And so we went through the difference between a calorie burn and a calorie deficit. We looked at a study. We looked at making a case for nutrition. We looked at your mindset. We looked at adaptation. We looked at, is it exercise or diet? And we looked at those two different options. And then we looked at, okay, now what? And we looked at the pyramid and how to put it into practical terms. So if you want more, I have 3 ways I can support you outside of this free community and these free trainings. So one, I coach women one-to-one remotely online. It's totally customized, and it's with the highest level of accountability and support. So when I coach women, I help them make, those mindset shifts so that they can sustain quality habits in the areas of nutrition, exercise, stress, and sleep. And I've coached hundreds of women online, and I've been at it way before it was cool. And I'm not the kind of coach that is in it to help you lose weight and gain it back, but to help you connect the pieces, be a better decision maker, and ultimately teach you how to sustain it and make it fit into your lifestyle. So I only have, this is the last week, and then my coaching spots close for the remaining of the year. I also have a consistency club. It's an online fitness community. This is a club that is open all year long, and we toggle between challenges and maintaining a baseline, so then we're not kind of swinging between all or nothing approaches. So unlike other fitness communities, this isn't just about workouts, although you do get workouts. You get to work out alongside me and workout videos, but it's about practice, developing your skills, working on building habits in the areas of nutrition, exercise, mindset within a supportive community. And we do 6 challenges throughout the year where we kind of rev things up, build up our skill level, bring ourselves out of our comfort zone as well. And then lastly, I have a gym outside of Strathroy, Ontario, and I deliver small group training classes. And the classes are really just designed to improve your cardio, endurance, and develop strength. So if you're needing more support outside of this community, just send me a DM and then we can have a conversation. And one more thing, I'm on a mission to change the conversation around weight and fitness. That starts with this community, these trainings, but it also needs your support. So when you invite a woman into this community, encourage them to listen to a training, comment, or tag under a training, we kind of shift the conversation to be one of true support, the kind that is meaningful and makes us feel supported and connected to one another, really. So will you support me on this mission by inviting another woman into the community, tagging them on the trainings, which will start to shift your conversation, your support network. And I hope that you'll take imperfect action on today's training. Until next time, I'll see you here again. All right.